So, can men have a preference for women who have only had few lovers? I hate the term body counts, it's morbid. Let's talk about solutions and being better men. Let's talk about courage. Let's talk about what is right for you. Many guys are pretty critical of women who have had many lovers, and many others are very critical of those guys. It all tends to descend into the usual hate game that has no solution and leaves everybody worse off. I am not here to call men who have a preference for chastity insecure, fragile, or toxic. Neither will I talk about how this affects women. If that is what you're after, you can easily find lots of content about this elsewhere. I am here to say that the real reason behind this preference is a worry that is just as valid as any other emotion. Many guys keep it hidden and suffer in silence, but as with any emotion, we need to take charge of it and make it work for and not against us. I know how it feels like, but I have conquered this fear. And today, I will show you how you can do it too. It hides behind a veneer of rationality, so I will start by stripping it away with logical arguments. This will feel like some tough love for a moment, but by the end, you will see the truth underneath and know what to do. Before we dive in, full disclosure. Until I was 25, I've only had 2 lovers and was pretty shy. Then I did some serious work on myself. My partner and I worked on our relationship and decided to open it up. Now I am a part of a very open community in the most open city in Europe. I have slept with a lot of people and I've been in long-term non-monogamous relationships for over a decade. If any of this makes you want to disagree with me without watching, your choice. But my arguments are just as good whoever I am. Some principles stay the same. They certainly allowed me to have great relationships and intimate life, and they apply to people who want a traditional family just as much. But research shows that many young men actually want non-monogamy and the kind of life I have, so maybe you're on board already. Regardless, this is a pretty heavy topic, so let's keep our minds open and get some shots. First, I want to recognize that there are perfectly legitimate reasons to have a personal preference for dating people who haven't had too many lovers. It might be that this is what your religion requires. Even if you're not religious, you might think that intimacy is sacred and would find it hard to be with a person for whom it is not. Or you might just not be a very sensual person and worry that being with someone who is would make both of you unhappy. Or dozens of other reasons. That is perfectly fine. It's hard to be with someone whose life priorities and values are incompatible with yours in any area. Say, she is a big family person, but you hate family events. Or she is very spiritual, but you think it's all mumbo-jumbo. Or she wants kids, pets, and a house in the suburbs, and you want to travel, party, and not be tied down. It's okay to prefer to be with somebody whose goals and values are more aligned with yours. If that's all there is to it, you can simply have an honest conversation about it and calmly decide how to move forward. You might say something like, "Hey, this is a bit of a hard topic. Are you okay to talk?" Okay, well, see, intimacy is like a really sacred thing to me, and I'm kind of saving it for those who really matter. So I know that other people have a more casual approach, and I'm not judging. Everyone can live their life however they want, but it's just not what I'm looking for in a relationship. So what's your thoughts on that? Oh, well, it's better to know now than later once we become more invested. So thanks for sharing and wanting to be with me, but I think we just might not be the best for each other. Perhaps we can just be friends? This is how a mature, confident man approaches the topic. He is in charge of his emotions, he is smart enough to bring this up before things get complicated, he makes a rational judgment, and he is respectful throughout. He doesn't get angry, he doesn't call her names, he doesn't tell everyone how loose she is, and he doesn't go online to rave about how all women are horrible. He certainly doesn't start a podcast to prove women how they will all die sad and alone because no guys will have them. Cheers to men like this. But this video is not about that. They've got it sorted. This video is about all the men who do get angry, who do call names, and who do get into endless discussions trying to rationally prove the superiority of their preference. Because I don't think they would be so intense about it if it were all just rational arguments and preferences. If it were, they would just do what the mature, confident man would do. No, this is about something deeper, something that controls them. The argument that usually gets brought up is made to sound rational and benevolent. Dear women, you should stop sleeping around because one day you will want a husband and won't find one because men might sleep with you, but they sure won't marry you. Honestly, It's touching how selfless and kind this message is. Let's pick it apart. First of all, not all men and not all women. About 13% of women are not into men, or not only into men. Of the remaining straight women, 24% say they actually prefer being single, but let's say only a third of those actually really do. Thus, about 20% of women can simply not care what men want. Meanwhile, most men might expect some level of chastity, but not all. Those in non-monogamous circles certainly don't, and trust me, there are many of us, 12% in the US alone. I'd wager at least another 10% of monogamous men also don't care, at least in the global north, and thus another 20% of women will find a partner without much trouble. More, as all of us polyamorous guys are very happy to date more than one woman. Finally, a large portion of the remaining guys will cave in the end. After all, men hate being lonely more than women do. I'd wager that more than half might not like it, but they'll do it. Thus, another 30% of women will eventually find a partner anyway. That means that most women have no actual reason to worry about ending up alone. Thus, if we're honest, the argument should say, "Dear straight women, you shouldn't sleep around because one day many of you might want a husband, many won't match with men who don't mind your past, and some of the other men will actually stay true to the resolve and not marry you." At this point, you can see how women might just say, "Thanks for the warning, we'll take our chances." Particularly if they are smart, fun, and hot, and thus might have the first pick of the men who just don't mind. Wait. This isn't about some stats. It's about what is right and wrong. There are rational reasons which show that having fewer lovers is better. And you know what? I'm ready to concede that indeed there are some such reasons. I just don't think that they're particularly strong. Let's have a quick one and look at some. Men have an evolutionary interest in ensuring paternity and thus want to prevent women they have kids with from sleeping with other men. This is a surprisingly weak argument. First, it doesn't apply if you don't want kids. It also doesn't apply to past lovers. We can all count months. And it also doesn't apply to present lovers because we have contraception and paternity tests. You can argue that none of those negate how men evolved to think, but the history of humanity is a history of using our brains to transcend nature. We didn't evolve to work at a computer or to travel to space or eat refined sugar. We can cope with all that, so why not with sleeping around? Besides, there is good evidence that humans, like most great apes, evolved to be polygamous, and monogamy is a cultural and not a natural invention. Either way, the solution is to rise above our natural or culturally ingrained instincts and ensure paternity using our brains and technology. Women who sleep around have a higher chance of contracting diseases, and I don't want any of them. To be fair, if people who did in fact contract an incurable STI can't find a partner because of that, it's tragic. But the risk that you will get them from a woman you want a relationship with is minuscule if you take simple precautions. Ask her to get tested and use condoms until you know the result. And even then, most diseases are curable. It's really not hard. And sure, even then there will be still some tiny chance you'll get something. But there's a tiny chance you will die every time you sit in a car, and yet we take this and other reasonable risks every day without making a fuss about it. Women who sleep around are likely to have drug problems, traumatic childhoods, or have been abused. This makes them difficult partners. Statistically, this effect exists. But the problem here is not the sleeping around. It's all of those other things. Neither does sleeping around cause such issues. Typically, the causes are deep in the woman's childhood and are just not her fault. The solution is not to police her intimate life, it's to help her resolve those issues. Naturally, that is a big commitment, and any guy is well within his right to say he is not able or willing to do so. But if that's the case, then he is not who she needs anyway, so why would she care what he thinks about her intimate life? Relationships where partners have had more lovers are statistically more likely to break up, so they are just bad investments. Statistically, that's true. But why? Most women don't leave on a whim, but because something is making them unhappy. If they are experienced, they are more likely to know that it doesn't have to be like this and leave. But the way to solve this should surely be to address the thing that makes her unhappy, not to only go out with women who will agree to being unhappy because they don't know they don't need to be. And in those rare cases where women do leave on a whim, good riddance. Sounds like someone you wouldn't want to be with anyway. Like I said, it's not that none of those reasons matter. And perhaps I'm missing some details, but they are just not that strong. They all have better solutions than requiring abstinence, and if we want to approach them rationally, we should rather be focusing on perfecting those solutions. I'll drink to that. Which brings me to my main point. I don't think that any of those rational reasons are what is really doing the work here. It's not, I heard those rational reasons, they informed my judgment, and now I think sleeping around is wrong. It's the other way around. I don't like it, so let's find reasons why it's wrong. People generally don't get so passionate about rational arguments or argue so intensely purely out of concern that others might end up alone. No. Such a strong reaction indicates that at the bottom of this is something much more primal than reason. Emotions. There's nothing weird or bad about it. It's just human. We have all evolved to have emotions and we are all massively affected by them. We all have the tendency to just not like something, to have an emotional reaction, and then find ourselves reasons to justify it. I know I have done it a million times, so I'm certainly not going to throw stones at anyone here, and I dare anyone who would. Are you truly without sin? Guys might say that they're oh so stoic and they don't care about emotions, but this whole affair is prime evidence that that is just not true. Because how does hearing about a woman's adventurous past make many men feel? I think this GIF sums it up pretty well. Yeah, I know. Men who shun experienced women worry that they will not be so special, that someone might have been a better lover than them, that they will not be enough, that the woman will realize this and leave them for somebody better. Behind the veneer of rational arguments is fear, plain and simple. And there is no stronger motivator than fear. What you're probably expecting now is another woke person to come and laugh at you. Oh no, a poor fragile insecure man. Maybe if you were a better lover, she wouldn't have left you. Such a lazy reply says something about the speaker. It says that they are more interested in feeling smug and powerful than addressing the problem. What happened to, your emotions are valid, girl? Oh, you're a boy? Stop whining and check your privilege, you patriarchal piece of... I think that it is perfectly understandable and valid for men to have this fear. The society puts massive pressure on us to find and keep partners. We've been taught to tie our self-worth with having a family we can protect and provide for. If we can't find, keep and satisfy a woman, I'm less of a man. Guys will laugh. People will talk. I will feel like a failure. No wonder guys feel worried. But then comes the next layer. Admitting to being afraid is the same as admitting weakness, and male gender norms say that men cannot be weak. It's a catch-22. To get rid of the fear that I'm less of a man, I need to admit to having it. But admitting to having it also makes me less of a man. And so we end up rationalizing our fear and hiding it beneath a veneer of rational arguments. But that's just sweeping the problem under the carpet. It's not a real solution. The real solution is to check out of the pressures that society puts on us. Those pressures exist because we hold on to old values and life scripts developed at a different time. Today, people don't want to settle young. We want to learn, develop careers, enjoy life. Many of us don't want kids. We've got technology, contraception, and medicine, and being single just isn't as hard as it used to be. And today, we know what horrible toll hiding emotions has on our mental health, and people are increasingly accepting of men expressing themselves. But it's not easy to check out of all of those pressures. We grew up with them and we internalize them. Whatever we do, they still keep playing at the back of our minds. One of my readers, DB Sayers, captured it perfectly in this comment. We are stubbornly clinging to our rock, while someone on the show is shouting, "Drop the rock, you'll swim better!" To which, unfortunately, many of us shout back, "But it's my rock!" And this is the first part of the solution. Drop the rock. We should change the scripts we live by to match the changing reality. Have the courage to break out of the old pressures and show the middle finger to anyone who expects you to play by outdated rules or shame you for having emotions. Strength is not falling in line with what they tell you is manly. Strength is doing the right thing, whatever they say. This is the kind of thinking that helped me do it. It's not about doing what women want me to do. It's about realizing that I am playing a role in a system that is designed to keep me down. And playing Rage Against the Machine on repeat in my head.
Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
So don't do this for me, or for women, or for some abstract idea. Do it for yourself. Do it to free yourself from worry, because pointless worries suck. They eat us from the inside, get into our heads, and make us fail. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. You could Have a great relationship with a woman who might have had more lovers, but this fear just gnaws on you and makes you do and say things you wish you haven't said and done, and then, well, she leaves. Except it's not because of all the past lovers, but because of all the things you have said and done out of that fear. You might think that you will be rejecting promiscuous women left, right, and center, but the truth is, you'll probably never get a chance to do that, because the moment you even mention the phrase body counts, she'll leave. You won't be rejecting anyone because she will reject you first. I know very well that even when we rationally see that all of this is daft and we shouldn't feel so worried, it is genuinely hard not to. But if you run away from your fear, it will always work against you. So this is the second part of the solution. Face your fear. It is hard to be in charge of our emotions. It is much easier to just run away, to simply not date women who would ever put you in a situation in which you need to look your fear in the eye and sort it out. It is much easier to tell those women to not sleep around, make it their problem, not yours. But your emotions are yours to deal with. Nobody else will deal with them for you. Nobody has any duty to make sacrifices so that you don't need to face your fears. Asking women to not sleep around makes about as much sense as asking all handsome men to stop working out, or everyone who plays a game better than you to stop playing so well, or more productive colleagues to stop working so hard. It's not weak to worry. What is weak is to refuse to master your fear and instead try to make it everybody else's problem. It's not me who didn't master my fear, she was just loose. It's not me who can't play well, the game is just rigged. It's not me who failed to meet the targets again, my manager just hates me. We all know people like this, and do you think it makes them attractive? But you know what is attractive? Courage. Courage is not about having no fear. It's about being afraid but deciding to do the right thing anyway. Have the courage to drop the rock, to stop playing the role society is forcing upon you and think for yourself. The role might feel comfortable and easy, but it is dragging you down and preventing you from pursuing potentially amazing relationships. Have the courage to look at the messed up system you've been brought up with and shout, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me!" Have the courage to face your fear and trust her. To trust that even though she might have had who knows how many lovers, she decided to be with you because she thinks that you are awesome. Have the courage to not try to control her, question her past, make her feel trapped, because every single time you do that, you give her a reason to think that, actually, maybe you're not as awesome as she thought. But most importantly, have the courage to trust yourself. To trust that you are actually good enough and you can be a great partner and lover, that you will satisfy her at least as well as all the others did. And if you have doubts about that, then have the courage to ask her how she wants to be loved, and work, improve, and become the person you want to be. If you're in a relationship, trust that whatever she saw in you that made her fall for you, you have it, and it's awesome. Have the courage to ask her what she loves about you and make it grow so you might become even more awesome. And if you're single and looking for love, have the courage to believe that you are lovable. Ask your friends what they think is attractive about you and make it grow so you might become even more awesome, and trust yourself to do the work that will make you confident and attractive. And wherever you are in life, have the courage to admit that, like every single dumb human on this earth, you have fears, you're not perfect, and you can be better. And have the courage to listen to others when they tell you how you can be better and work on yourself to actually become better. And if anyone in your life ridicules you for having fears and worries around dating, you have my blessing to tell them to fuck right off. Especially if they're a feminist, because people don't get to tell men we should be more in tune with our emotions and allow ourselves to be vulnerable, but then ridicule us when we are. To those people I say, you are part of the problem. So, can men have a preference for women who have only had a handful of lovers? Sure we can. Sometimes we have good reasons, and then we can simply talk about it openly with a prospective partner and make a decision that is best for both of us. Sometimes, all of those reasons are just what we say to cover the fact that we are afraid that we won't be enough. And while some might ridicule us for those fears, I think it is perfectly understandable and valid. It's okay to be afraid. What is not okay is making our fears other people's problems and going on a crusade to shame women for their choices. This video might sound like some tough love, but it is more love than tough. I know that conquering this fear is really hard. I have been there. Have the courage to drop the rock of social expectations which drags you down and prevents you from pursuing a better life for yourself. Have the courage to face your fears and trust in her love and your ability to grow. Take the energy you spend on blaming others and put it into improving yourself and becoming the sort of person no sane woman would leave, however many lovers she had. I have done it, and you can do it too. My name is Dr. Simon Vogt. I'm a philosopher and explorer of masculinity, handing you the Man's Compass.